Welcome everyone, my name is Jordan Farmer. This is the Uncommon Ground YouTube channel where we are indoctrinating the masses, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a very grim subject, but one that needs to be addressed, especially within a political context, and that is rape. Now, unfortunately, the term rape culture has been used, I think, it's been overused in its application, as most of those kinds of phrases are overused, and that's gotten in the way of meaningful discussion. Saying that we have a rape culture means that something in the culture is telling you that rape is okay, and I don't think that's an accurate description of American culture. I think we're very anti-rape. I just think that the political mechanisms surrounding it have not been properly discussed, and it's as simple as that. I assume that every single person I come across is anti-rape, and I think you should too. But it's time for a war on rape. We had a war on drugs, that was useless, and we've had wars on terrorism, but and that has been complicated and varyingly effective. And it just complicated. But anyways, we need a war. We need a collective activist movement, pretty much. We need a unified movement to try to handle rape from a political standpoint, from a law enforcement standpoint, a legal standpoint, counseling. One of the things that I advocate for is a universal health savings account, which would mean that some people, if they so chose to, could use that money towards counseling or towards drug rehabilitation services or whatever they may need. But in particular, counseling, as it relates to rape, being a rape victim, it matters, and we should be making sure that we're giving people that are put in that situation the best support that they could possibly have. And universal mechanisms like a universal health savings account can bridge the gap, or at least be one tool in a whole arsenal to bridge the gap. But the most important aspect of dealing with rape as a society is dealing with rape as a society, which means, obviously, the rapists, the people that have been proven to violate other human beings' sovereignty, physical sovereignty, particularly with children, but with anyone, need to be removed from society. And right now we have a a prison and jail system that pretty much puts gangbangers and drug addicts behind bars, but rapists seem to somehow, especially pedophiles and child rapists, seem to somehow find a way out of the system, or a way to get out of prosecution. Very few things in my entire life actually have made me sick to my stomach. I've always kind of anyone who is in my family, you can ask them. For a long time, it's been a point of pride in me that I could handle things and that I don't get throw-up-y or sick, even around grotesque things. One of the only times that I've ever gotten sick to my stomach was from something I actually read. And that was when I decided to look up what the penalties were, maximum, minimum, whatever, for rape and for attempted rape. And what I found was that on the federal level, attempted rape got 2 years. This is my recollection. It might have been a state website. I don't recall. When I read that, it made me sick to my stomach. And it made me realize how bad of a situation we are politically in terms of this kind of policy. And this is the kind of thing that can't be made a part of a national platform and then tossed aside. This is not the kind of thing that can be made a state platform and then be tossed aside. This is the kind of thing that we need to start, and I will make this a part of my personal mission in any on-the-ground politics that I'm involved in, or in what I'm doing in my local community, wherever I'm at going forward, because I am guilty of this as well, of not fighting on this front. It has to be a locally focused and a locally fed and a universal movement to get the rapists off of our streets and to protect our children and to protect our women and to protect some men and to protect all human beings from those who would violate them in such a freaking perverse way. It's a topic that's difficult to discuss, but I'm doing my best. There's a lot of unfortunate corruption and fraud involved in the politics behind all this, behind enforcement on these fronts. We need enough funding. Here's something that Kamala Harris supported that I absolutely support and that I think is absolutely vital, and the federal government can do it. Pay to fill the backlog of rape kits. Somehow, we don't have enough kits, enough actual things to collect evidence in order to process all of the rapes that are actually reported, and apparently, according to the statistics that I was given at a very young age and that I've seen in the years since, between 10 times and 20 times as many women get raped and children get raped compared to the number that actually reported. And of those that report it, we don't even collect evidence in many cases. It's a joke. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. And the fact that it's allowed to exist, the fact that it's allowed to go on, the fact that it's not been handled, it makes you ask a lot of questions. And it's one of the main reasons why I'm absolutely fed up with our pathetic system and our pathetic politicians. How can this be allowed to happen? How can you be a public servant and let this happen? How? It's crap. Budgeting. We need financial experts and accountants and auditors in our budgets for all these departments. I've heard stories from insiders that have said things like $12,000 desks for the directors of little agencies for rape agencies a few years ago. $12,000 desk. And many other examples of many other issues. People getting paid when they went up to... People getting paid to discuss these in committees and getting all sorts of stipends and special little benefits to spend a lot of time analyzing these issues, and nothing actually gets done. Because we don't need to analyze these issues. We know how to solve the problem. How do you get... I mean, there's the details of how you actually convict rapists, but once you've convicted them, the solution is at a bare minimum simple in terms of you kick them the frick out of society, put them in a cage like the animals that they are, and leave them be. They can appeal, and if somehow a false charge goes, we need to have a healthy appeals process. I'm all for that. The worst thing that can ever happen to a man is to have a false accusation of rape. Or anyone, but false accusation on something this crazy and this important is just, it's terrible. And I don't know how to solve that issue, because if you punish those people, they might not come forward. We need to have a rigorous evidence process on the front end, and we got to understand going into this whole scenario that rape and sex and the evidence involved and the blurry lines between all that stuff, we need to... it's just that sex crimes are going to be inherently difficult to actually try to combat and try to actually address because of the private nature, the behind closed doors nature, and the crossover between rough sex and rape, and the underlying, and just analyzing all that. Also, we need to make sure that we have a healthy system of reporting, of believing victims, and of collecting evidence on victims immediately. We need to get people, as soon as this has happened and as soon as there is any evidence or we can know, we need to get those people to evidence collection as soon as possible. And we need to have a society that has all the mechanisms set up to help those people in that situation. And little girls and little boys and adults need to know who they contact, how they contact them. They need to have safe houses or safety networks. I would personally, one of my dreams is I would love to see this, or I would just set it up myself, to have ex-military females only, sorry men, but ex-military females in charge of houses that actually help house abuse victims, women, children, all that kind of stuff, and get them in safe situations and out of harm. I just think military women are the proper balance of feminine sympathies and feminine capacities that men necessarily don't have in as great of numbers on average, and the discipline and the strength of the military. I think it's just, for some reason, I think that particular niche, it fits tremendously. When it comes to the officers that need to be in charge on the front lines when it comes to fighting the war on rape, I'm all for female officers to be in charge of that, with male officers there. Same thing with domestic violence. Male officers there in support, female officer leading, male officer listens to the female officer. You have other workers there. I'm all for this more nuanced approach to policing and to the way in which we handle criminality and domestic abuse and all those kinds of things, and especially autistic or mentally handicapped adults and people. You need to have all the kind of proper training and safety protocols with police and everything like that. There's a lot to be done in terms of upping our game and leveling up our game when it comes to our law enforcement. But the most important, in my opinion, of all of them, of all of those specific points to focus on, is ramping up our offense against rape. Get rid of the term rape culture. Don't hang on to it. Don't hang on to stupid terms or stupid particular ways of saying it. It's all about the underlying ideas, the underlying arguments, the underlying action that must take place. And if you recognize the value in that and the urgency in that and the importance in that, you should be able to get the rest of the shit and put it to the side and just try to be a good soldier for this cause. This is going to be one of my, it's not the most foundational when it comes to understanding the history of economics or the history of politics or America or the direction we're all going or any of that stuff. But it's one of the most vital on a human level, one of the most vital areas of focus we need to have when it comes to politics. And that's why I wanted to share it with you today. Good luck to you guys. I look forward to this war. I look forward to the fight. And like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, share this with your friends. Peace. Final bonus point, PS. We should have lifetime sentences for rape if it's convicted. Period.